Today, I am here at the most endangered river in the country right now, and we are going to be exploring and taking a deep dive, no pun intended, and also not literally, into what exactly is going on with this river. What's going on? I moved to Northern Virginia 2 years ago, and almost every time I leave my house, I see this river. And when I first got here, I thought, you know what, it looks nice. Maybe I should go for a dip. Cool, refreshing water, it's so close to my house. Well, guess what? Turns out, this river is not something you want to be swimming in, if you couldn't tell by the fact that it is super endangered. That being said, apparently the river's health had been slowly improving over time and was tracking towards something positive. And then January happened.
Hundreds of millions of gallons of raw sewage has been spilling into the Potomac River after a pipe collapse.
This is the scene from Chopper 4 today, where the raw sewage continues to spout from the broken pipeline straight into the Potomac River. The sewage clearly visible along the shoreline, pumping raw sewage into the river at a rate of between 40 and 60 million gallons a day. Warning signs have been posted by the Park Service, and this homemade sign graphically describes exactly what's flowing by.
Yeah. This was likely the worst acute wastewater spill in U.S. history. Just let that sink in. And as you can see behind me right there with the truck and the workers and whatnot, the cleanup is still very much ongoing. This whole area is fenced off back there. There's a bunch of dirt piles everywhere. There's piles of stagnant water. There's a bunch of fences and signs and things saying, don't come this way, danger, no contact with water, etc., etc. And you guys can't see this back home. It smells like it really does. Even still, I was here months ago. Cut to that, throw that up. And things have not hardly improved very much. I was almost expecting to come out here today and see nobody, but that is far from the truth. And on top of that, this whole situation with the spill and with this pipe bursting is only one part of the equation. Back in April, I got a message from Potomac Conservancy. They asked if I had seen this year's famous America's Most Endangered Rivers of 2026 report. I had not, so I decided to look it up. We're number one? The Potomac River. This river that I'm sitting on top of right now is the most endangered river in the country today. And I live 5 minutes away from it. Fantastic. Obviously, this is not good news, so I decided to dig a little deeper into this and find out exactly why my river is top of the list, and to understand how concerned I should be. Of course, I read the report, but I wanted to really know what was going on here. So, I figured what better way than to go to the source. I reached out to American Rivers, the organization who wrote this report. And to my complete and utter surprise, they answered. Potomac River is number one. It's like, oh, we're number one. Great. This is Pat Calvert, the Virginia Director of Conservation for American Rivers, and essentially their lead on the Potomac right now. I'm really curious specifically about the data centers as well. You know, they're obviously popping up more and more places. Of course, this is the highest concentration of data centers in the world, if I'm not mistaken, out there, not too far from either one of us, and certainly not too far from the river. But I was trying to understand more specifics on sort of the data and metrics behind how much water usage, like what sort of impact it has on the local rivers and whatnot. I was curious, any sort of just information you could share about that, or just to talk about that a little bit.
Our concern largely grew out of the fact that we didn't know how much water data centers were using and are using. The data center industry has generally operated under the expectation that their water usage, just the sheer amount of water that they use, is proprietary knowledge.
Oh.
And we have found that we're not asking for how are you using that water. I'm not going to say we don't care, we certainly are concerned what's coming out the other end after you're done with the water, which is another issue. But just how much water are you using? I don't think that's proprietary information.
Right.
And it seems that most of the courts in the country are finding similarly. We're starting to see maybe a change in the industry about, hey, maybe people deserve to know how much of their community's water, which is finite, can go towards cooling data centers because they can use a great deal of water. We were able to get legislation passed in Virginia to require our Department of Environmental Quality to be granted knowledge of how much water data centers as an industry are using. The agency that is in charge of for budgeting how much water is being allotted for industry and homes, businesses all across the Commonwealth didn't have access to how much water this particular industry was using, whereas
that's interesting.
And frankly, we're just looking to level the playing field.
Right now, I am standing in the middle of Data Center Alley, which has the highest concentration of data centers in the world, and it's not even close. Right here, in the middle of Ashburn, where I'm standing, data center behind me, data center there, construction on data centers right there, another data center there. It's roughly about a third of the world's major data centers are located right where I'm standing. And that's not even it. They're going to add hundreds more to the hundreds that are already here. So when you look around, all you see are cranes and frameworks of new data centers that are coming up. And while that's lovely for the internet and AI, and I'm not really a big fan of AI, but whatever, it's terrible for energy consumption and the river.
It's probably the wealthiest industry in the world. And growing at an exponential rate. And so if we need to slow our roll a bit to make certain that we're able to sustainably invite these into our communities and have them as next door neighbors, then there needs to be transparency, and then there needs to be a full account for what are the impacts, what are the costs, and not just economic costs, but the environmental costs and otherwise, to include water and energy and land use.
No, for sure. It's a three-pronged, at least, issue. Actually, speaking of the sort of other prong of the impacts to the rivers then, on the side of infrastructure failures, maybe we don't quite know, but do you feel like the Potomac Interceptor pipe collapse was sort of a one-off and like, oh, okay, that was scary, but we're good? Or is that potentially sort of a harbinger of things to come?
I think the latter, and I think it was avoidable. I also believe that, because it was known that it was in poor shape. It had outlived its 50-year lifespan. It was around 60 years old, and they knew that it was in not great repair and needed work. It was, I believe, on DC Water's plan to deal with it, but as we all know, it costs a lot of money. And for politicians and lawmakers, it's not necessarily the sexiest thing to talk about. Hey, we're going to fix your poop pipe. Great. It's something that's underground. We don't see, out of sight, out of mind. Well, I guess it's working just fine, right? We just make these assumptions. There are some federal programs that help localities to address their clean water and wastewater infrastructure and stormwater infrastructure. And what we need to make certain is that those are supported and fully funded. September of this year, 2 of those programs will expire, so we need congressional reauthorization for those programs for sure. That is proven to work, depended upon by localities and states across the country, and we need to make certain that that's funded so that localities can prevent a similar fate on their own rivers.
Is there sort of anything, I can do or somebody can do as a citizen that lives in this area who is concerned about, like, the river's status or where it's going? And also just sort of a general, if you could tell one thing to young people about the environment today, broadly or specifically about this, what would that be?
If folks would like to check out mostendangeredrivers.org, there are specific actions that people can take right there. That makes it easy. Our partners in this whole campaign are Potomac Riverkeeper Network and Nature Forward. Anyone in the DMV can become a member, volunteer, join the organization, as well as American Rivers. We'll appreciate that so that we can do this work that we do.
Absolutely,
What to tell a young person about the environment? Rivers don't vote, but you can. Rivers can't speak for themselves, so I've lived plenty of days without a lot of the niceties that we rely on and technology and whatnot, and even electricity, but I've never lived a day without water, and not many people have. Our rivers are irreplaceable, precious, if it's valuable to you. Speak on behalf of the river, vote on behalf of clean water. Clean water is not a mistake, and so vote for clean water. I'll leave it at that.
The Lorax for rivers. It's great. Huge thank you to Pat for giving me some of his time and having that conversation with me. It was super enlightening, interesting, and I hope you all learned something too. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Au revoir.